Welcome to Cove, Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. Welcome to Trauma Chat, where we invite on a guest to talk all things trauma. Please watch and listen with care. Some of this content may be triggering or may make you feel uncomfortable. So do press that stop button and take a break. Always put yourself first. I'm a mental health advocate sharing my lived experience. I'm also a massage therapist, a wellness audiobook addict, and a stepdad to my amazing 4-year-old. I've interviewed hundreds of wellness experts and people with stories of overcoming their wellness struggles. I myself have suffered with childhood abuse from childminders, severe school bullying, a deep depression in my 20s, and blackout anxiety. Plus, I had a life-threatening illness in my early 30s. I want to give a voice to those who can inspire others to improved wellness. Now, I'm super excited today because you know how much I love a creative guest, and we've got yet another one on. I'm here with Carrie of Positive Energy. Phil, who is a positive mindset coach. He is educated in cognitive behavioral therapy and healing from his experience with childhood trauma and mental health struggles. He also writes poetry and sings. What an absolute awesome dude. You will see Phil being featured as part of the Poets of the Cove movement. Welcome to the show, Phil. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
The problem, like I said, I was really excited when I saw your page. I loved your videos, your singing video stuff on Instagram and your poetry stuff. I got very excited as a fellow creative. I thought if I could talk about wellness with you and talk about creativity, then I'm a happy man. So that's amazing. So how has this crazy 2020 been for you so far?
Yeah, it's definitely been a roller coaster ride so far. And really for me, it was great in a lot of ways because it gave me this opportunity to pursue this dream and this passion that I've been brewing inside for quite a while. In terms of being here in Canada and all over the world, we're all spending a lot more time at home and outside quarantine and outside of the everyday world with what's going on. And for me, that really gave me an opportunity to dive more into my passions and building what I wanted to really do with my life. So that's really where a lot of this mindset coaching kind of took its wings, is I now had this extra time over the last year or 6 months or so to kind of, put the time into that passion and see it grow and continue working towards my best self with no distractions or anything else in the way of doing so. So, for me, I find a lot of people have been, finding some stresses at times from what's going on. But for me, it's really been a nice re- reprieve from the everyday hustle and bustle of what life was before. So,
Yeah, it's so true. And I've said to many a guest, it's been an opportunity for exploration, for growth. And I think for those who were stable enough to be covered, so those who financially were okay or had furlough or whatever was going on, it was potentially a really positive thing. And I know it's been not positive for so many. It's been really, really tough. So by no means are we saying that it's not been, because of course it has. It's been tough for me. I didn't see my family for 3 months through this. So we've all had our stories, but like yourself, it's given me too opportunities to grow this and meet some amazing people in the process. So hopefully it's laying the foundations for so many of us, isn't it, to go back into the world again, but with this new foundation of passion.
yes, definitely. I believe that, really at the end of the day, what's going to find us our true inner peace and our true, ultimate positive mindset or calmness inside of our soul is to go within and to look towards our growth and learning to become that best self. And again, and as you mentioned, to do so is going to put us in a position that when we go back out into the world as life resumes as it normally would, we're going to be in a much better position to take on the different challenges that may come with grace and without a whole lot of stress kind of coming our way, and just being able to see the learning and the inspiration in all these moments rather than the fear of what we may be seeing in the unknown of everything that's going on right now.
It's amazing. And, we're going to talk about much more of this as we go through, but that kind of approach with the mindset and the narrative and what you're focusing on, when you look at that, it kind of over time resources you, like you said. So if other things come along that are tough and a real struggle to get through, you've resourced yourself with tools to be ready for it, if you see what I mean, rather than fighting fires as they happen. But anyway, we're going to talk about this in a moment. We're already going off on a tangent, as we said we would. So before we talk about your work and a little bit about your story, so I want to let everybody know at home what you're up to, kind of at the moment, a little bit about yourself and what you're up to in 2020.
Well, for me, a lot of my time spent in 2020 is with my family, with close friends. I mean, a lot of going on right now with us, everyone spending time at home and away from the everyday hustle and bustle. For me, that's led to really just a lot of time spent with my children and my partner, as well as, a lot of time spent on personal development and finding that best self and continuously trying to become that 1% better every day than I was yesterday. Because that's something I've often found is, for me, a big thing in propelling me forward is, rather than looking at that mountaintop of where I want to be, just trying to be that little bit better every day, and trying to have gratitude for every little, all those small victories along that path. And so that's really a lot of what this last year and this last, I guess now 8 months of 2020 has been for me so far, is focusing on that inward journey of growing towards best self and finding joy in all the things that I've been fortunate enough to have in my life throughout this time so far of the year.
That's amazing. So with the sort of the mindset coaching side of it and how you use Instagram, what made you decide with the Instagram to have this combination of, inspirational mindset work in with a bit of singing, in with a bit of creativity? What made you realize that you wanted to bring all of that together?
Well, for me, it's a matter of those activities always were really my nirvana in a sense. That was where I found my peace of mind and my blissfulness in life and my escape of sorts from my challenges when I was having many challenges in my younger years with different forms of and aspects of mental health. And I often found that things such as anxiety, for example, are often bred of this. We have a very active mind that's thinking constantly, and when we can overthink about in a negative tangent, it's going to lead to struggle. But I found that when we flip that script and make that negative thinking more of a positive influence, that anxious thought and that really active mind that we are blessed with becomes one that's fueled by creativity. And it seems to be really that just the natural flip side of anxious thought is channeling that excessive and gifted brain that we're blessed to have, and finding really a better outlet for that we're blessed with. And for me, and for many people that I've come across, I find that creativity is really a big aspect of how they can do that. And for me especially, I love to sing. I love to play drums. I'm newly learning guitar, so music has always been a big part of my life from a very young age. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family that was full of other musicians as well, my brothers and my father. So for me, music has always been that way that I felt love and I felt inspiration to be my best self. So it just became natural as a way to then share my love in that manner to the world and to inspire in that manner, because it always had inspired me. So really, it was taking what I had learned from my experience and then just trying to share that in a way that I felt might be relatable to what other people would also be feeling in their mind. And for me, it's the same kind of outlet falls in creating art and painting, writing creatively, um, drawing, really anything that kind of gets those creative juices flowing.
I'm so with you on that. The creative output and expression, being able to express what I'm going through creative means, I find is a really cleansing way to kind of reconnect with yourself. It's very, very meditative and kind of flow state based. which is exactly why, I really enjoy it too. So I'm with you on that. And for anybody that's listening, later down the line when we do more Poets of the Cove stuff together with Zach and some of my other friends, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. But that's for another day. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I'm sure many of our audiences get that. It's just so important, isn't it? So this, of course, is a trauma-informed show. It doesn't mean we're going to talk about trauma the entire time, but it's just informed by that. That's what it's all about. So I ask every person the same question, and you're going to get it this time too. So for you, what is your definition of trauma?
Well, I guess in a lot of ways, my definition has changed over the years as I've grown and learned different steps of my journey to healing and my best self. In my younger years, when I was more in the midst of depression and anxiety and at times suicidal thinking, to me, trauma was something that was, I really seen it as life is unfair. Why is this happening to me? You know, I viewed it in a very the world is beating me down sort of sense. And that often was bred from this manner of thinking that I had at the time. But as I grew to be a more positive thinker, I really changed my perception of those situations. And trauma to me then became simply a moment, person, or experience that was coming across my path to provide some sort of lesson or growth for my soul. So, in that sense, even though the perceived negative moment was occurring, I would view it as a hidden positive lesson in disguise. So, I like to say to myself, rather than win or lose, I am winning or I'm learning. And adopting that mentality is really where that became such a big change in how I viewed trauma and how I perceived it. Because when I was able to then add that aspect of finding growth and finding learning in that traumatic experience, I was able to then cultivate gratitude for having gone through that because I knew it had taken me that one step closer to my best self. And through this understanding, it really helps to absolve the pain that kind of gets attached to that moment and that negative resentment that can be carried with someone through much of their life. So for me, that was really a big turning point, and for me, that's really now how I observe all my moments that come across is that if I face something that's seemingly negative or traumatic, my mind now has been trained after practicing this for quite a while to jump past the pain that is possibly being experienced and look immediately for what is the lesson intended.
Yeah, it's such a good way to kind of like we talk. It's like we talked about earlier about resourcing yourself with a daily practice within mindset, which sets that pattern in motion. So yeah, like these things come along, you're able to better deal with them. And by no means are we suggesting that when these terrible, terrible things happen to us, especially as kids, that it's that simple. But we're talking more on the journey thereafter and resourcing ourselves for the next one. And this is very much a show that talks a lot about bottom up. So processing through the body so your mind starts to shift and change, and big believers in that. But there's also a part to play with us top down. How can we integrate and resource ourselves with top down processes to keep that momentum going? I think you put those two together, then maybe a sense of joy and contentment can come out of that. And certainly, just hanging out with you and just your awesome energy just chills me out anyway. But also, it's not just chills me out; it also makes me super happy too because you've got this aura of positivity. So you're obviously doing something right, which is good.
Yeah, gotta love it.
So, thank you, my friend. So we are going to look a little bit about your journey, your own struggles, and then we're going to dive straight into kind of how you work and with clients and all that kind of thing. So obviously you've alluded already that you've had a few things in your life. So I presume you have had struggles with mental and emotional health challenges earlier in life.
Yes, so for me, these challenges started at a very young age. I dealt with a number of different aspects of what I guess you could call childhood trauma. And so for me, this really came about in a variety of different ways. And my at home life was one of being in a negative environment that was really born of, at the time, my parents did not have a very healthy relationship with each other. It involved a lot of arguing and fighting and yelling and calling of names and that sort of thing. And so, being a young child at the time, but an older brother of two younger siblings, that really became kind of where a lot of these situations and experiences of mental health challenges that were going in my mind began, because I can tell you, for example, a story of when I was young and having listened to my parents have an argument while myself and my brothers were supposed to be sleeping in bed, and hearing my mother talk about something such as wanting to commit suicide because she herself was, dealing with these same sort of challenges. And in those moments, having my younger brothers, myself being about 10 at the time, and my younger brothers being 6 and 2, and having them crawl into my bed crying, asking me, why is mom talking about this? Like, is she going to go away and not come back? So I know in those situations, that was obviously not the intention that was ever in the minds of my parents in that kind of environment, but just being engaged in, that negative energy really was where a lot of those kind of challenges began. And through most of my elementary and high school years in my childhood, I was often kind of the kid that would be bullied and kind of picked on. So a combination of those two things, of that at home environment plus, excuse me, going to school and kind of being singled out as the person that had no friends, or the person that was a loser, or any of those kind of names that kids like to throw around, that really led to where this depression and anxiety started around the age of 12 or 13. And really born of this kind of lack of self-love, but also this fear of failure, because at the time I did not understand that, but as I grew older, I started to realize that was really what was creating a lot of what was going on in my life. And as I grew to my 20s, this started to grow into it grew past anxiety and depression into also including suicidal thoughts, because from my perspective at the time, it was really a matter of just feeling worn out by the challenge of what was going on, and feeling drained and just sort of frustrated at the world, and that sadness and that pain was really kind of fizzling and becoming in like an anger sort of, and resentment towards the world around me, and just, and that really gradually grew to wondering, do I have a place here? Should I just take myself out of that situation for it being simpler than burdening people with what I was feeling and what I was experiencing? And that was really how I looked at it in that moment. So that went on for about 12 years of my life, from about age 13 to about age 26. And again, that at that point, that was when I met a few other people like myself and like yourself, that started to teach me about the things of like subjects such as positive mindset, and all the different aspects and ins and outs of that. And that's really where my healing journey began. But so that's a little bit of background about how I kind of came to be where I am today, and what spawned the passion for wanting to help others either heal from experiencing a similar type of life, or really building a mindset that can help them to avoid it altogether, because they learn how to take those challenges on with grace in an earlier point in their life than maybe I did, so that when they come across these challenges, they can take them on, learn from them, and not really get trodden down as others may have, without having that advanced knowledge of how to deal with it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was with you all the way there, because I've heard similar stories, and a little bit like mine, and what it sounded like a lot, especially at the beginning there, where you have to think about your siblings, how strong you were having to be there, how much you needed to be there for them and hold the space. And then obviously in school, you weren't being cared for, in the sense of, I'm talking about in friendship groups, we're wired for connection, we're wired to care for others and to be cared for. And it sounds like you had to be either the strong guy or the surviving guy, which obviously is going to wear you out. So no wonder you get to a point of that negative mind space that you're in. And I hear this, when people have to look after their brothers and sisters when things are struggling at home. They grow up far too quickly, and they're not cared for by their caretaker in the way that they need to be in that environment. And it seems I'm seeing this pattern with people that it ends up leading to this anxiety and scary thoughts and all this kind of stuff because you weren't co-regulated to deal with stuff when you're younger. The ability to know how to process your trauma as it was happening in school. If kids could process their bullying trauma as they went through, it gives them way more chance as an adult. But there's no school in the world that's going to pull that off, I don't think, actually help every child process. But, it is what it is. But, I just want to thank you so much for sharing that. And with that journey, we're going to talk about your comeback journey a little bit more detail in a moment. But towards that comeback journey, did the creativity play a part from a kid all the way through to, I'm asking you this because this is what happened with me. So did you use that as a tool to like get yourself away for a moment, maybe have a bit of mindfulness thrown in there with the creative flow?
Yeah, definitely. And I just want to briefly touch on the one point you had mentioned there is that I find that in that age group of like that 10 to 15, that's really where we would be so amazing to have that education on how to take on those challenges and how to address the different things that are going on in our life. And that's really a bigger part of my dream too, is to help kind of inspire change in that manner, and how the education system really approaches that sort of topic. And for me, in that age group, I definitely found that music was definitely something that for me was huge throughout my life, because as I mentioned, I grew up in a very musically inclined family. From the age of really from the age of 4 or 5, it was growing up watching my father play guitar, singing along, kind of enjoying in that excitement and high energy of the passion of music. And so throughout all my life, that really became that happy place, and where I would escape from different things that were going on, because the music always felt kind of helped me feel calm and relaxed, and just to kind of forget about the worries for a little bit. So that really off from a very young age, and to this day, and I would imagine for the rest of my remaining days in this lifetime, that will always be something that I do on a very regular basis to inspire the positive energy and inspire the positive vibration in my environment. As I at this point, I do listen to, even on a day-to-day basis, I'm likely listening to music for at least half of the day, if not more, just sort of in the background to what I'm doing and whatever activity is going on, because I've always found that that having especially high vibrational frequency music definitely seems to kind of create that environment that puts us in a good place to thrive and be our best self. And as far as a lot of the other creative aspects, the drawing, the poetry, things of that nature, that really kind of became more of a passion later in life. As I came into my 20s, I really kind of came into my other aspects of my creative energy, and the ways that I could use it for peace of mind and for understanding of myself. Because my poetry, for example, it really started with a lot of, I guess you could say, negatively based poetry, as it was in the midst of the challenges of depression and anxiety, and sort of me trying to look inwards and have an understanding of who I was and what I was thinking and why I was thinking. Because, as I'm sure many people with anxiety can relate to, there are times where you kind of wonder to yourself, like, am I crazy, or is something wrong with me? And I think at that point, it's just a matter of we don't have an understanding of ourselves. So having that creative writing outlet helped me to dive inwards and get that understanding, and then really know exactly what was going on in my mind. And as I came to find out, that was a great first step to of having that self-awareness to then learn from it and grow to become my best self over time.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned the self-awareness side of it because we're so similar in so many ways, but that self-awareness through expression too is very powerful. Because it's so easy to lose ourselves, isn't it, and just not know who we are or what we're meant to be here for. But I find that outlet's good. And just touching on the music bit of it too, what I really love about was I like to think about sound, like you said, from a sound perspective. So you can listen to a classic track that makes you remember a good time, or a track that just makes you feel good, or a dance track that makes you want to move, in a more mainstream way. But then you've got stuff like, sound therapy, you've got sound baths, gong meditations, where you're purely using vibrational sounds that interact with your body's vibrations and all that kind of stuff. So you've got two ends of the spectrum, but it's so universal, isn't it? And it can help so many people in so many different ways. And I think we take it for granted sometimes how powerful it actually is. My partner always says I'm like a walking jukebox. So I'm just walking around the flat cleaning, but I've always got my phone next to me and it's banging out a tune when I'm doing it. But I just always been like that. So you remind me of me quite a lot with that one. So with the kind of, we touch a little bit on your comeback journey. So you got to your 20s, and you had all the negative issues happening. There's some anxiety in there, and negative thought patterns, all this kind of stuff. So as you started to shift and change, what was the moment that you were like, right, I need to make a change? And then how did that unfold? Did you just do a little bit of it every day and start to build momentum with daily practice?
Yeah, I'd say it was definitely a case of building that momentum day by day. Because as I had mentioned a little bit earlier in our conversation, it's really about this idea of 1% better every day. Because often we get lost in the idea of like that big victory of the mountaintop per se, and lose sight of the victory in all of the steps we've taken up that mountain to get to that mountaintop. And so in that sense, the moment that my life really changed was when I was about the age of 26, about the age of 26 or 27, and I'm just coming up on 31 now. So I would go to this local event in the city I live in here, and it was called Rockayoke. So this is like a karaoke music night, but with a live band rather than just music recordings. And it was always a lot of fun. And at the time, I had made a friend there who they were very, very positively, very strong in their positive mindset and a very positive thinker, and really, they were really someone that started to inspire that in me by it really in that when I started going to this event, I was in the midst of my deepest, darkest days of my challenges and my struggles, and this person could see that, and they approached me and really started to just have conversations with me about what was going on in my life and to give their advice and wisdom and try and inspire me with the light that they had found from overcoming the similar challenges in their life. And so that was really the game changing moment where everything suddenly had more meaning, and I found a way to I had found a really an escape out of what I thought was never going to end and what I thought was going to be there as a challenge my entire life. And at the end, in the same way, that person is really an inspiration for what I do now, because I realized that all it took was one person to talk with me about positive mindset and the different ways we can overcome challenges from different aspects of mental health. And it all it took was that one person. They changed my life very drastically, and really started the wheels turning on me finding my own path towards my best self. So I've always thought to myself, if that one person could change my life, why can't I be that one person as well to change other people's lives in that same way? And as I had mentioned just a minute ago, it's a momentum thing. Like for me, I at that point I was depressed and suicidal and anxious every day, all day. But as I started to learn and as I started to adopt these different ideas that I was hearing about, it became a point where now I'm having a good couple hours on the weekend. And from there, it progressed to the point where now I'm having a good couple hours each and every day, and growing and expanding as and to a point where now as I grew strong, I kind of came to a point where now I'm having all day every day is good, but maybe I'm having 1 or 2 hours bad negative feeling moments in the week. And so it's like bit by bit, the spectrum I went from one end of the spectrum to the other, and eventually grew to a point where I could say I really had a lot of, I'd say 90% of the time, positive mindset moments. And about 10% of the time, I was still having those negatively influenced moments. And then I would use coping mechanisms to get by them. But over time, those coping mechanisms didn't really seem as fulfilling So, and that was really when I started to do more inner work to progress past that, to find total peace of mind and really to transcend the negative energy I was feeling rather than to deal with it or just put it off until later.
Yeah, thank you. I know there's so many little nuggets of information there, and I had so many good points as you were saying it, and now they've drifted away. But like you said, people tend to get in a mindset of I'll start this daily practice, or I'll start going to the gym, or I'll start doing yoga, and a couple of weeks later, sorted. I'm sorted. I'm feeling good. Everything's changed. Unfortunately, that's not how our brains and bodies work. They are very pattern based and they know what they're used to. So you have to show your mind and body that there's another way in a really safe and sensible way. But it's so easy for us, isn't it, as goal setting human beings to be like, boom, I'm going to start meditating in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be full on Buddhist, ready to go. It's not how it works. And, just briefly, just to mention, people have heard me say this before, but when I first started meditating, because I knew it would help me, because I was so erratic, so much energy and thoughts flying in, I thought I'll start meditating. Okay, boom, I'm going to do a half an hour meditation guided. I couldn't do that. I couldn't lie still for 30 minutes. I had to start with a 3-minute breathing space. So maybe like when I pull up before I get home from work, I'll just follow my belly breath for 3 minutes once a day. That's it. And I got into it. I was like, oh, that was good. Then I just carry on. Then the next day I'll do another 3 minutes and 4 minutes. And before you know it, now I've gone from not being able to do long periods of meditation and I needed to have music and I needed to have guided meditation to me loving silence. I now love silent meditations. I like to sit or lie for at least 15 minutes. So it shows, like you said, over time that shifts, your beliefs change. But they say the more we have these thoughts over and over again, the more they then become belief systems and sometimes it affect our values. So, I think I'm worthless, but I know I'm not. And then the next day you get a little bit closer. Well, maybe I am. Okay, shit, maybe I'm worthless. And then you get to a point like no one loves me. That's how the belief can shift and change, like you said. And switching it over, like you said, just a little bit, you could start to not argue with that point, but show another way so they can come together in unison. Would you subscribe to some of the things I've just said?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like in the sense of by letting go of our control, we are gaining control in a sense, if that really resonates for anyone, because it's like just by focusing on our best self, we know that we're going to welcome to us situations, experiences, and moments that reflect that energy we're creating. So that's definitely something I love to take part in, those different activities that you mentioned. Like I myself do love to meditate, and I did find the same way. It's just like anything else. It's that gradual bit by bit growth, that gradual bit by bit improvement, having gratitude for all those small victories and growths along the way, but as well as for the seemingly what you would view as setbacks. Like it's really just about just trying to stay in that now as often as we can. And I find that all these mindfulness exercises definitely do help us stay in the now and at the same time feeding ourselves that positive script of the things that we want our brain to subconsciously adhere to. It's like you mentioned, if you're hearing the same thing over and over, you start to believe it. And it comes back to like when we were bullied as children, for example, if someone's calling us a loser every day, we start to really believe we're a loser. But if we ourselves are telling ourselves every day, I am abundant, or I am peace of mind, or I am kind, or I am calm, or really any kind of affirmation that you want to be grateful for, or that you are grateful for, whether current or in advance gratitude, you're going to, in the same way, get your brain to subconsciously believe that to be true, because it's really that's how our brain operates, is that through this subconscious programming of sorts. By hearing these positive affirmations on repeat, we're going to start to, our brain's going to start retraining itself to subconsciously think that way about ourselves. And meditation is a great way to do so. I also like to journal my gratitude and my intent in different ways, as well as really through different kind of physical activities like the music or art, as we had talked about, or even exercise or yoga or anything that really gets that good energy flowing, creates those good endorphins and good chemicals flow in our brain. They're all really great mindfulness exercises to strengthen these assets for ourselves.
It makes me think a lot about nurturing, how often how often do we nurture ourselves, give ourselves what we need, whether it be rest or just an activity that we really love that makes us laugh. It's so easy, isn't it, to get caught up, especially as, I'm sure you get this as a parent, me too, that there's a lot less time once the little kids come along, and then you're really looking for those opportunities to do a lot of the things that we're talking about today. And it's hard when you've had a long day with your kids to like go, right, cool, I'm gonna just have a whole evening nurturing myself, because there's always other shit you've got to do. But like we said, you just put in a little bit. It doesn't don't make it some big mission to do like 3 hours or something, just little bits. And something said to me I really liked, that is like, if you want to influence your future, you just need to be in this moment and making a change right now. If you influence your moment right now, it will have an impact on your future. So rather than like, I'm going to meditate now and try and work up to this, and then it will really start to work. It's like, no, if I start meditating right now for a couple of minutes, my future is going to look completely different if I didn't do it at all. So it's kind of that. And like you said, with affirmations and gratitude, I'm a big fan of gratitude. Without setting myself a target, I try and do it every day, but no judgment if I don't. But reflecting on those special moments. So rather than reflecting on some big thing like, I had a great day at work, that's too big. Just focus on, oh, I absolutely loved that chat with so and so at lunch. It was brilliant. And just focusing on those little things, because you may miss those opportunities and go, actually, they're really cool. Maybe I should talk to them more. You miss that opportunity to be aware that that person's good for you. And I know that with my new job, working night shifts with loads of people I don't know. I've not been a new boy for a long time. It's a little bit scary. But I'm starting to have these amazing conversations with these awesome human beings. Like, God, they've got an awesome story. So you just need to bear that in mind, don't you? The gratitude. So, thank you. All the things you're saying there really tie in nicely to that. So, what made you decide to jump from positive thinking, Phil, to turning it more into a potential business model? What made you have that switch to wanting to do it as a job, as a work job, whatever you want to call it?
Well, really, as I started to heal and grow through my journey, it became a passion to teach my friends and family just by sharing about my experiences and what I'd gone through, and really just share that mental health awareness of these are things that sometimes people are dealing with, and sometimes they're dealing with it in private, and you don't know about what's going on, and just to you know, show others that maybe have gone through a similar journey that there is a way that you can change and there's a way you can find a happy, positive life in a situation where you feel like you're in dire straits and there is no way to change. And so this started as just sharing this ideal with friends and family because, I felt like I had this new lease on life, like a second chance at making an impact and doing something meaningful. And so I wanted to share this with anyone that would listen. And as I started to take part in that in the last couple of years, really got a lot of good feedback, a lot of good comments from friends and family saying that, they found it to be inspirational and motivational and very, it added that value to their life and their day in some way because they could not only the knowledge, but just feeling the passion and the energy that behind that delivering that knowledge. And so this is what led me then to take it to the online world, to have start social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, and start sharing inspiration and positive mindset teaching, and positive energy, and teaching about love and gratitude and all those wonderful things that are different aspects of the puzzle per se. And it's really over the last 6 months as I started to realize that this coaching people or teaching people about how to find growth in their mindset and freedom from the challenges of mental health, it's really became such a passion that I spend every day, all day, thinking about and engaging in conversations and ideas and situations that really to promote this ideal and this energy. And it became something that is really every living breathing moment of my day is dedicated to this. So for me it was really a matter of wanting to take that passion that I knew was there and I knew was going to be there for my entire life, and find what is the best way that I can use this to make a positive impact on the world. How can I take this asset and this gift that I'm grateful and blessed to have, and how can I, you know, bring it to its highest potential of really making a substantial impact in this lifetime and leaving behind a legacy of making some sort of change and inspiration and sharing of love that really helped bring the world at large forward and contributed to that greater good. And I don't know if that's like a midlife crisis moment or something like that, but it really started to become this drive. This is the driving force that I really wanted to take this second chance at life that had been given to me, that I felt I had, this, I don't know how you would say it. It's almost like I felt like this my I owe something to the greater good of being able to be a part of the puzzle of what really helped to share love and make the world a beautiful place. And this led me to taking part in some education classes in regards to business building and really starting the road towards that journey. And that's really where the last half year have been a lot. I've spent a lot of my time engaging and working towards that goal, because ultimately that's where I feel my strongest benefit to society and the world around me lies, is that I've always felt that I have the gift of teaching and sharing information, helping others to understand the ways that they can make themselves their best self. And this just really seemed like the perfect outlet to be able to do so, and to be able to share that love and knowledge that I've been lucky enough to be gifted in this lifetime.
That's amazing. And it makes me think so much about what you just touched on there, which is really beautiful, which is like the impact that we can have just through the smallest of acts too. We're not saying that like you need to go out there and we all need to become therapists and coaches and speakers and all this kind of stuff, or bloggers. It's just realizing that the moment you walk out that front door, you could have a really positive impact, not in any pressurizing way, but just like, I have to say, like, everyone was starting to come out of lockdown, especially in the UK anyway, and you start getting out there again, and you throw someone a smile, or you give them a bit of eye contact. It can make someone's day, giving someone a bit of eye contact can really let them feel seen, heard, and and understood in that moment. We don't realize that all of us could really have a part to play in someone else's life, even if we don't see them again. They'll be like, "Oh, do you remember that guy or girl that helped me out in the shop when I dropped some stuff, and they were just so lovely." These connection memories are such a good resource for that human being to go, there is hope for me. There is a way for me to connect with others. And it's very beautiful. And, people like yourself and like me and a lot of the people I've met, we're taking it to another level of, really trying to expand it outwardly through social media and all that kind of stuff. But I think we can both talk to the people listening right now who aren't in this field, but know that there's a few people in their lives that they'll be there for them no matter what. And that is, if you've got to that point, then I think you're pretty rich, to have that kind of relationship, which is really beautiful. So when you're working with clients and in with the coaching, I think it's pretty obvious probably how you work with them based on what you said so far. But as you go through that journey, do you resource it when you're having these sessions? Do you resource them with tools? Do you do any accountability in there? Do you feel that you being by their side as such in itself is very nurturing and very healing for them, knowing that they've got someone that's got their back whilst you resource them? So for you, is it very much about resourcing them with tools?
So, for me, it's really a big aspect is, again, it's just sharing that experience, that life experience of what I've gone through and what has worked for me, and showing them the ways that they can utilize these assets and these tools to then help themselves grow to that best self that they strive for and they seek in the same way. And I find that it's a matter of sharing knowledge and sharing strategies, but there is also an accountability aspect, as you mentioned, in terms of, you know, um, it's really, you have to be accountable for yourself in these situations. But in these, as you grow to that point, I find it does benefit you to have that coach or friend or family member that helps you to be accountable as well. until it becomes something that is a self-sufficient practice. Because as you mentioned, as you start to engage in these different activities, you realize how good it makes you feel, and how much growth you're finding, and how much improvement you're finding in your life. And you think to yourself, like, why didn't I start this 20 years ago? And it really doesn't become, it's something, you realize you don't want to ever stop. But I find that really more than anything, it's giving them the inspiration, the tools, and the assets to challenge their comfort zones, to step out of that comfort zone. And that is where I find we will find this healing and this growth from the traumatic events of our past, and as well as that growth in the future of growing towards whatever is limiting us currently from our best self. Because at the end of the day, we are truly all responsible for our own self-love and our own self-care and our own best self. And because we only have control of our own energy and no one else's, the best thing we can do is to inspire them and teach them and show them the ways that they can themselves give their own give their own self-love and self-care, and really providing, I guess, that support and that love and the inspiration to help motivate them to continue doing so, and not giving up on their dreams, or overcoming those challenges when the tough moments do come up. Because that's what I did find, that it's really, this fear of failure comes up for a lot of people, in that we often have this mindset of 0 or 100. And it's like, if we're not going to do something perfect, we're very likely to not start at all. Because to step out of that comfort zone and to feel like we are having judgment towards ourselves or from others, that we didn't do what we are challenging ourselves to do perfectly, I find that this is really what restricts people the most in finding that growth, is challenging their comfort zone of that anxiety or depression or other mental health challenges they've created. And as they do so, they will find all the growth that they ever wanted to find. But again, at the very beginning, it's about finding that how can we get past this comfort zone, and how can we use the tools that we know about to do so. And that's really where my greatest asset lies, is in being able to teach and show others the way they can do this, and the way that is also benefited my life as well.
Yeah, thank you. It touches a lot on thinking about the fear of judgment too. So much of our fear is from that fear of judgment. So I don't want to do it and look like an idiot, for example. I don't want to do this and mess it up and look stupid. These are all stories that we tell ourselves. So we end up just doing nothing at all, which, on some level is quite sad. You're having that positive accountability. So if it's done in a really nurturing way. So when someone, we all want to be seen, heard, and understood, right? We want to be held in a space by another. Makes us feel fantastic. And what that can do is allow us to realize, actually, we are worth more. If this human being thinks I'm worth more, then maybe I am worth more. So you start turning the stories around from what we talked about earlier about the negative self-talk. But I find, with having my coach, is that he's able to see all of me. I can't see all of me because I get stuck in my stuff. But those people can see all of you, all of your potential and your beauty and your triggers and the things that set you on fire in a good way and all this kind of stuff. So it allows to open up that, because, I'm going to move into coaching eventually, and I'm learning from all of people like yourself about how that looks, and how you can't just pick a coach because you're told they're awesome. Yes, coaches are awesome. Go and use them. That's not how it works. You need to meet a few people, a few coaches who fits right, who has been where you've been, gets you. It's really important to take the time to find the right positive accountability on your journey, and which is kind of a big part of what you're talking about, because not everybody's for everybody, right? Everybody buys into people. So I know, like, for people who want to get themselves out there and share a bit of their passion and what they're into, is not everybody's going to get it. So it's knowing that, like, just be authentic. So with Cove, I'm just authentic. I'm just me. If you don't like me, then fair enough. But I need to be the brand. Like, you need to be your brand, your positivity, Phil, which positive mindset, Phil, it's pretty obvious what that means. So if they met you and you were really not positive, you'd have to question your branding. So you have to be the embodiment and authenticity of the mission statement you're putting out there. But I think everybody has the potential to just reconnect deeply to where they would be before all this stuff happens to you. So when you're born into the world, you're full of opportunity and abundance, and the world is your oyster when you're brought onto the planet. I don't mean that from the perspective of, okay, if you're born into wealth, obviously there's more opportunity, but if you get yourself out there, like you said, just put yourself out there, take the opportunities you can. Don't worry about fear of judgment. I was doing online shops at my new job, and I was like, shit, I'm really slow at this, and they're going to think I'm too slow. And like, how can I do this quicker? Just get myself in a right mess. When really, if I don't get it quite right the first time, I go, cool. Well, at least I know that now. I know that's what not to do. And then the next time you get into it, and then by the time you've got to the point where you're really good at it, you're like, shit, like, this is brilliant. And I never would have had that joyful moment if I just didn't bother getting the job in the first place because of judgment, which is in there. So what I'm really intrigued to talk to you about today before we go is the relation between how we think and our mindset in with trauma recovery. So we know if we're talking about the most serious forms of trauma, so long periods of sexual abuse or rape or war, obviously that's a whole other ball game. We're talking about how important it is to engage body, mind, everything, feeling safe, having therapists that can help you through that. So what I'm more talking about is people who have like these micro traumas, these little things where you've got a boss that makes you feel really really uncomfortable and sort of shouting at you and all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts between how mindset can interact with working through trauma recovery? Do you feel that it has a big impact to play in the long-term trauma path?
Yes, I think that really to overcome any trauma we have ever experienced, whether in our in our past or in the current life that we're living, it's a matter of perspective, and it's like you had mentioned previous just a moment ago, where sometimes you're going to have that connection with someone that you don't have with others, and it's really it comes to this idea of like, for me, your vibe attracts your tribe, and the energy you put out is going to attract to you the people and experiences that match that energy and that vibration. And I find like that because of that, you're going to be attracted to where your value is going to bring its best impact, and to the people that would find impact from that. And in terms of dealing with these challenges that are on a more serious level or on a long-term timeline, I find that it's really in the same way. It's the same kind of activities and the same kind of strategies are going to get us to that point of peace of mind. Now, in a situation of that nature, where it's a very serious traumatic experience that happened, perhaps this journey is going to take a bit of a longer amount of time to get to where you want to go. But ultimately, taking part in these similar self-care and self-love exercises is what's going to help get you to where you need to, because they are really what will help you to look inward and unlock and really assess and have awareness of your pain points and the insecurities that these pain points cause. And it's really only when we can find this awareness of where we are struggling that we can then seek an empowering answer of how to solve that problem or that challenge that we're facing. So, I find, especially in my own life, I definitely at times kept many things that I was experiencing to myself and was very private about what was going on. And it really created this, by shutting down what I was feeling and ignoring it and stuffing it away in a way, I was making the problem worse and making it last a longer time in my life. So, in the perspective of someone who has experienced something really severe, the best I believe they can do is to start as soon as they can in engaging in these self-love activities, to then at least start working towards, through the trauma and the emotions and the fears and the pain points that come along with that. Because I believe whether the trauma is big or small, we're going to heal from it in the same way. But of course, there is going to be a bit of a more I would imagine from just what my intuition would think is that there's a bit of a more of a lengthy process in that scenario to finding your best self. Because obviously, in that perspective, someone who has dealt with, let's say, a rape or abuse, physical abuse of some kind, may have more baggage per se to unpack than someone who dealt with something that was maybe considered less on the severe end. But at the same on the same token, I guess that's not necessarily true because we all have our own perspectives and our own pain points of what we've experienced. So really, it's like what seems very small and insignificant to one person could seem very large to another. So in that sense, I try to approach all scenarios in that similar way of approaching with the same strategies and tactics of cultivating the self-love, which then allows you to go inwards and address the traumas and the pains that they are creating and that you're holding on to, and through this start to work through these emotions and these through so through active conversation and through learning and finding gratitude and growth in these moments. And I understand that from many perspectives, finding gratitude or growth in a moment such as something that's very, very traumatic can be very difficult at times, at least at first. But really, it's not necessarily finding gratitude about the act itself, but in the lesson learned or the growth that your soul found. And for example, in the case of being bullied or beaten up as a kid at school, just knowing that because you understand the pain of being on the receiving end of that, you're not going to want to do so to someone else. So there in that lies for me the gratitude and the growth of that traumatic moment. So while this can be harder to unwrap and possibly lengthier amount of time to find in a more serious situation, I do believe that ultimately any negatively perceived moment can lead to this sort of growth when as you start to unwrap the different insecurities that have sort of been layered over top of it. It's almost like an onion. It's like you gotta just peel a layer back at a time and take them all one at a time rather than all at the same. And as you start to peel back the layers, you'll start to uncover the deeper traumas, but you'll be also gaining strength and experience and growing towards your best self of how to deal with those. So as you get to the tougher things to unwrap, I feel like you're going to be coming to a point where you're more prepared to do so.
So powerful. Thank you so much. And it brought to light just to kind of like what you said there to like tie it all up, which is, you hear these stories time and time again of people who, especially with school bullying and stuff, it normally goes one or two ways, doesn't it? So you have those who then become real advocates, and it leads to this like deep kindness, this deep wanting to not be that, and going out there and helping people working in the charity sector. And so you have those who have that same experience to do that. And then there's the other ones that disassociate because the pain is so tough and they go down a rabbit hole of addiction. And so it's the same trauma experience, but goes down a different pathway for numerous reasons. And normally it's to do with resourcing. So having people who can be there for you afterwards and resource you with tools or help you process or therapy or whatever, or family members who will hold you and give you a hug, make sure you're okay, and it balances out the trauma that you're receiving. So there are circumstances that lead you in that direction, but it does show that there are numerous pathways for any event that we have. And like you said, by no means are we saying that the deep work doesn't require proper therapy work, because of course it does. But like you said, the journey back to where we need to be comes from a daily resourcing of daily practices and ways of being. And you don't have to be the same for everybody. Not everybody wants to do the gratitude thing when they go to bed, but there is other ways to be more mindful in the moment and go, oh God, that was an awesome moment. And then just taking a moment to like get a little file for that, pop it in your little mind jukebox and get it there for next time you want to think about that sort of stuff. But we can engage in these things, which is amazing. So before we go, my friend, I always do this for everybody. I want to thank you so much for your time. For everybody listening right now, what would be your bit of insight for them? What would you like to tell our audience who may be struggling with negative thought patterns and things? What would be your finale send away piece for them?
Well, really, to me, it comes down to understanding that as we talk about this ideal of positivity or gratitude or any of those wonderful words in between, to me it comes down to this idea of love. And love to me is the most powerful energy force in the entire universal consciousness, or whatever perspective and name you have for this place that we exist. And understanding that when we create love and through our intention, we are going to welcome via the law of attraction a reflection of that energy that we are creating, and that love that we're creating is going to mirror image into our reality and become what we see and what we experience. So, having that understanding, I think that it really is imperative that everyone who is in a situation where they feel these challenges and they feel this restriction towards their best self, to do that, that inner, to look inwards and to really ask ourselves those questions that kind of take ourselves out of that comfort zone, and help us to find pathways to being our best self. Because I sat idly in what I was struggling with and what I was challenged with for many, many years, 12 or 13 years of my life. And I really wish upon learning that those things, as I know the experiences led me to where I am today, but knowing what I wishing that I knew it then, it would have led me to where I was in a lot faster fashion. So whether that's part of my journey or not, I always feel like if I can inspire someone to start their self-love journey today, that's really at the end of the day what is my biggest dream, is to inspire, not to do it tomorrow, not to do it a month from now or a year from now. Just start loving yourself today. Start treating yourself with care today, and start that path to becoming your best self. And if that is something that you think you require or would like help with or guidance on that journey, there are many good resources to do so, such as reaching out to myself via any of my pages, Positive Energy Field on Instagram or Facebook, or really any kind of mental health resource that you may have in your local area. Or, and there's a lot of wonderful people online sharing lots of love and inspiration. I find that just diving headfirst into any way that you can find that love and inspiration is truly the best advice I could ever give someone. And where I think that most of these journeys will begin is that self-awareness of wanting to grow from our challenges and realizing that love is the answer, and now seeking out ways to find this love.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It kind of makes me think about intention without judgment's very powerful. Like you say, go out there with intention for whatever that looks like, but just do it without judgment, because otherwise you will start to go, well, you haven't done it yet. That's judgment. So it's really important. But I just want to thank you so much for joining me today. I've absolutely loved this, and I'm feeling revitalized just talking about this stuff.
It was really nice to be part of the conversation today, and yeah, definitely we create lots of good vibration here, lots of good positive energy. So I'm sure that ourselves and anyone who listens along will get that same wonderful feeling that you're feeling right now as well. And I'm excitedly looking forward to it.
Definitely, I can't wait to get this edited and out there. But I do have like 15 or 20 other interviews to do as well and get those out there. But this is the beauty of this. We're bringing a voice within this sphere of Man Cove, including yourself now. We're just creating all of these voices and messages and energies that we want to put out there, which is amazing. So we're going to find out what you've got coming up next, what the future looks for you. I'm just going to quickly thank my patrons, my friend, and then we'll come back to you just to finish up. So I just want to do a big shout out to all our patrons on Patreon. As always, thank you so much. Your donations every month really mean the world to me and allow me more time to do what I love. We have some very exciting news coming about the coaching coves, which will be an exclusive benefit to all our patrons. Honestly, it's going to be amazing. So check out for that. Thank you, Michael Morgan, Emerald McLeod, Maggie Palmer, Daniel Billing, Roland Chesters, Hannah Irvin, Karen Goodson, Julie Ferris, Stella Stati, and of course, Stephen Truelove and Darren Osborne, who are my co-hosts on my other podcast chat show. Absolutely amazing dudes. You can sign up to the Man Cove Wellbeing community at the link in the description of this video, or visit www.patreon.com www.mancovecoaching.com/MCW. There's a range of other benefits on there, including the forthcoming coaching coves. You can find out more about us at mancovewellbeing.com. So, Phil, what's next for you, my friend? What's the next 12 months look like for you, do you think? Well, as much as we can plan at the moment.
Yeah, well, I've always been one to have big dreams and big goals, and that's never been ever something that's left behind. So as this year goes, my goals and plans are to continue growing in teaching clients one-on-one about positive mindset, and helping as many people as I can find that value in that growth in their life as well. I do have a few creative writing pieces in the works, a few books that I plan on publishing as the year goes on, as well to the one that I published earlier this year. And ultimately, one of my biggest goals in the next year is to write a mental health awareness program for like high school students and preteens, and present this to school boards in my local area. Is ultimately that I realized that in my own life, if I had that education at that age, I really could have had such a different outlook on the challenges that came my way. And so that's one of the legacies I would like to leave behind, is to have something of that nature permanently put into the education system, so that kids everywhere are learning about how to take on these challenges with grace, and really help them to avoid the struggles and the strife that came into my life. And if that is something that I say if, when that is something that I achieve, that will really be something that puts a big smile on my face, and that is definitely a big part of my next 12 months.
Wow, that sounds awesome, man. I'm so passionate about that stuff. So, if you're up for it when you've done that, let's get you back on and we can talk about, high school experiences and how we can make change. If you're up for that, we could get you on for that too.
100%, and definitely will be there. Whenever you want me, I'm in.
Awesome stuff. So you mentioned that you're obviously on various social media platforms. So what is like your most active ones? Where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, so I use the same name for all my pages, Positive Energy Phil. I have a group on Facebook that you can find, as well as an Instagram page. And I do have a Spotify podcast channel, as well as a YouTube channel with some videos about different aspects of mindset, and really like little lesson videos of sorts. So those are some of the main ways that you can find me in the online world. And yeah, and you can feel free to join all those groups or send me a message if there is something you'd like to chat about. And I would be happy to get in touch and to be connected.
Amazing. Thanks, man. I'll put all the links to all of those various locations in the video. Please, everybody go and check out your YouTube channel and stuff. There's some really fun stuff on there alongside all your coaching videos. So that's what hooked me into you and got you on the show. So I'm sure people can get value too, which is great. So thank you so much, Phil. And thank you, everybody at home, for listening. We'll be back next time for more wellness chitty chat. As always, as you know, I have some unbelievably amazing guests lined up. I'm about to head off and do another recording after Phil now. And he's also awesome. I can't cope with being around such awesome people. It's too much. It's too much love in one space. Not possible, eh? Not possible. So have a wonderful day, everybody. Stay safe, support your friends, and take care of your nervous system. It needs you more than ever, so show it lots of nourishing, yummy self-love time. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.